Hi, and welcome to CorelTrainer.com. I'm Clay. The topic for today is the new Corel 2019. Let's get started. Recently released Corel 2019 has offered a great deal of additional improvements to our Corel design platform. Most specifically, and topics that I'll be going over here in this tutorial are related to the imprint industry. Firstly, the new features worth mentioning for us specifically embroiderers, screen printers, sublimators, digital printers, etc. would be the menu options. I'll start from the left and move to the right. You'll notice that most of the Corel workspace is pretty consistent with the last few versions, though the menus have a few additional properties just below them, of which we'll be covering. I would like to skip ahead just a bit and go under Help and choose What's New since version, we'll go a couple versions back. You'll notice this is an easy way for you to bring out and identify what is newer and what you might need to give a little bit more attention to when you get the new Corel on your computer. So now I have these kind of brown pinkish highlights on certain functions in my program to identify what's new. Again, so saving directly to or opening a file from Corel Cloud has become very easy. You must obviously log into your Corel Cloud account, but it's a great way to have an additional backup without an external hard drive, so something that I do find pretty beneficial. Under the Edit option, you'll find Find and Replace. This is a majorly improved function in Corel, and I highly recommend you use this in the future. I have a tutorial or two actually that go over Find and Replace and different aspects of Find and Replace, which are still completely applicable in this case, except those functions, instead of floating windows, are all now organized very simply on the right here, and very easy to click on different aspects of finding pieces of the design, replace, and the Find All function right at the bottom. Refer to those tutorials for more reference, and future tutorials after this one to going into more detail of the Find and Replace window on the right. Another new feature of Corel 2019 can be found under the Object menu option. Under Object, you'll find several new functions, including the Symmetry tool, Create New Symmetry. Technically, this function was new in version 2018, but has been massively improved with this version 2019. Fit Objects to Path function. Under Fit Objects to Path, and I just closed that tab on the right, so I will bring it up again here. There we go. You'll find an excellent new tool in Corel 2019 for taking any object and doing exactly what we used to do as far as fitting objects or text to path, but now with objects as well. I've drawn a circle here on the right. I will select both the circle and an item, so I just held down Shift and clicked on one of the JPEG new Corel 2019 logos on my workspace here, and then I will go over to how many duplicates that I may want. So it may just be one on the path, or I may want, let's say, 11 or a dozen of these objects. Again, this is a digital image. This is a JPEG. It does not even have to be a vector image to fit to path. And once identified, I can also choose to keep the original or not keep the original, group the objects, not group the objects, and doing so moving forward just as I select multiple objects. You may need to click off of objects, the ordering might be necessary, the order in which you choose them, etc. So this object on this object and apply this many times. You can then continue to make adjustments to these, whether they overlap or not, spacing, etc. So play with this new tool. It's very, very useful. Fit Objects to Path. Another great new function in Corel Draw 2019 is found under Tools, and it's Borders and Grommets. It's based on your workspace area, like many other functions specific to our industry. So I'm just obviously working on an 8.5 by 11 work page here, but found again under Tools is that function specifically, Borders or Border and Grommets. This new window that comes up, and obviously this is a newer function for Corel. I anticipate some very improved functions in next year's Corel version release, etc. But anyways, has some very basic options in here, like adding the grommets, the border areas, that type of thing. The number of grommets can be adjusted, the spacing of grommets can obviously be adjusted, but once done so, they apply to your page automatically. By the way, they are automatically grouped and viewing in wireframe frame view, you can see that they are vector and can be adjusted manually if need be. Just a great new tool. I'll zoom in here. Next are quite a few major improvements in the workspace customization and the organization functions that we all love to do for in the imprint industry and tailoring our Corel workspace to what it is that we do specifically. I have a couple classes mentioning this and one very long tutorial, well, I don't know, 15, 18 minutes, in customizing your workspace. That tutorial is still very applicable in Corel 2019. There are a few slight differences of which I'll go over right now. So found under Tools and Options, so before there is no customization, the customization is now under the Options option. There is Corel Draw, Customization, Tools, Global, Worksheets. So instead of going straight to Options to find all of the above, they have been divvied into these very organized categories. Let's go into Tools, Options, and Corel Draw first. I'll move the window off to the side. So under Corel Draw, you'll find text and different tabs options. So slightly different additional options, so nothing in previous videos has been taken away, by the way. Under these text options, there's just a few new ones, and you'll notice the new function of being able to just go through these tabs on the right instead of subcategories underneath each on the left. So just a small notation there, if you will. X out of this, go back up to Tools, Options, and Corel Draw. Another function that you'll find very useful if you're more of a graphic designer, if you do some real artistic media, these type of things, is the pen settings. Play with these functions. You can draw a few lines here, at least 3, giving a range of pressures for your tablet and or touchscreen tablet, etc. So this is a great tool that you're probably going to want to work with if you're, well, a little bit more artistic than myself. Under Customization, so again, Tools, Options. Now, Customization, the second option down, you'll find a couple additional functions that have moved around and a couple that have basically the same. For example, this is where you'll find the appearance options, of which I praised so widely in 2 or 3 versions back, when we can darken our work page a little bit easier on the eyes, change colors off to the side, etc. I would also like to notate how easy it is in the new Corel and how responsive it is to change the size of our menus, our tools, and our windows with this function just here, found under Appearance as well. Notice increasing, decreasing the size there. The window increases and decreases in size, as well as the customization window in itself. Here I'll exaggerate a bit so you can see what I mean. Bring it back down in size. So this is especially useful for those of us with smaller or larger monitors, and we want to be able to view all of our menu options, etc. Let me hit X out of this. You can see my desktop here. Here we go. There's my background and everything, and we'll bring Corel back up just now. Also found under, there we go, Tools, Options, and Customization, you're going to see your color palettes option, which again is almost identical to previous versions. Please refer to Customizing Your Workspace tutorial. Next, found again, and I'll return to Tools, Options, and going to Tools is very specifically making the adjustments to the different tools, such as your eraser, different tables, ellipse tool, etc., that you may have done before, but again, organized into their own categories now. Next, I would like to bring up a couple additional functions just found under when you select an object and then you right-click. And I will reiterate again this Create New Symmetry functionality, in which case you'll be able to duplicate any object that you're working with. And this neat new window comes up. Instead of attached at the top, you have it as a window now. The type of symmetry that you'd like to create, whether it's mirrored or not, things that you're drawing, and when you continue to draw in an area, how it will duplicate on the other side of the symmetry. You may want to zoom in, see the bar down the middle that adjusts the said symmetry, and adjust that individually. Just a great tool for you to play with, and I'll do a tutorial on that specifically later. I would like to now go over some just general differences, general improvements, or just changes, if you will, in the Corel 2019 or CorelDRAW 2019. Firstly, the Smart Fill tool is now located underneath the Interactive Fill tool, so it's not its own function there. By the way, yes, I added my own tool here. Yours will not have the pen tool automatically just there. Again, refer to customizing Corel Workspace tutorial to go over why I did that and several other small differences on my screen. Nextly, the property bar flies out to large windows and common shapes. So things such as common shapes. Again, property bar just up at the top right here. There's a lot of flyouts in this area, not just over on the left. For example, the polygon tool might have its own flyout in the past, but let's say something like common shapes, and I choose a common shape at the top here. Boom, look at all those common shapes, of which you'll find banner shapes, call-out shapes, etc., which were subcategories on the left earlier, but all of them found right under these common shapes category that I wanted to notate the general change in version 2019. Probably find it, you say, hey, I'm looking for the banner tool, click on the common shapes, you'll find the banner function just there. Some settings in the lower left corner, those types of settings, by the way, the little gear here in the lower left, that might be new to you. Object details, cursor, coordinates, these type of things. Again, some of the adjustments in the property bar, but details of things like the objects itself and how those come up on the right, left, and adjustments that you might want to make to them. At the end of the tutorial here, I would like to just go over a few larger concepts of pros and cons, just overall positives and negatives that I see in this newer version, Corel 2019, possibly helping you decide whether or not it's worth upgrading this time. Obviously, I chose to. For those of you who know me, my name's Clay. I've been teaching Corel for 13 years now. I love Corel, and I pretty much always teach in one version back. This is the first time I've got the newest version of Corel on purpose because I like these improvements that I've mentioned in this tutorial so very much, and they are improved from just the previous version that I said, you know what, I'm just going to go to the 2019. So that's what I've done. First pro is files load faster. When you're opening files and additional files, they just come up super quick. Even if they're older versions of Corel, it doesn't matter. When you're bringing in PDFs, when you're importing and loading new files, they just import faster, period, end of story. It is more prone to crashing, and I must say that though. On my Corel 2017, 2018, Corel X7, X8, I had a little bit of crashing when I would overwhelm Corel. It does seem that 2019 gets overwhelmed a little bit more, but the smoothness of everything else is worth it. So do your backups, do your automatic saves, but it does crash a little bit more often than I think I've experienced in the past. And I did want to notate the type of computer that I'm working on right now is a Windows 10, 8 gigabytes of RAM, i7 processor with a 2 gigahertz processor. 2 gigahertz i7 processor. So it's not a monster, and I do not have a graphics card in this particular computer. That might explain a little bit of my particular crashing issues. Customization features are way more intuitive, and I obviously went over that. I spent several minutes just earlier in this tutorial talking about the tools options and customizing those, as well as some of the other customizing features that I really enjoy, attaching toolbars, access to menus and tools even when menus and windows are open, as well as opening multiple versions of, and I mentioned that here at the bottom, stable enough to run 2 Corels on the same processor, the same computer. So I don't know how often you might need to do that. Instead of just different windows, you can have 2 full versions of Corel running, and it does not seem to crash more often or less than not doing so. Anyways, so just a great new thing there. A negative I did notice is there is more screens freezing. So I'll zoom in and out here a couple times. So now watch, it won't do it on me. several times I was zooming in and out and it would freeze on me. Again, that could be partially responsible to my processor, but you will notice just a blank screen every once in a while. You'll need to zoom in and out to catch that cache up, that memory up to what it is you're doing. Obviously, a positive is it's Mac compatible. I will doing an upcoming video on Corel 2019 on my Mac. And one last negative is the text formatting assumptions. I do not like it all. So when I highlight something and I underline it or I bold it or something like that, and then I go back to it later, it assumes too much, and it's a little bit frustrating in my opinion. I hope you learned a thing or two about the new Corel 2019. I hope with this tutorial it helps you decide whether or not it's worth the upgrade. Please reach out to me as a member of CorelTrainer.com if you have any specific questions. ClayB at TrainingInCorel.com, or feel free to give me a call. Talk to you later. Thanks.